Welcome back to What Sold, the channel where all we do is show you what we bought, what we sold, how much it sold for, and any information we think can help you. Let's get started. All right, getting started here today, we have this, it's a bead essentially that you would just use in creating jewelry, like putting things together, making bracelets, necklaces, things like that. And so the thing that's unique about this particular one is that it has this metal ring on the inside, as you can see, that says 925. That stands for sterling silver. So the little metal rings on either side of this bead, which is sort of like an opaque purple silvery color, it has silver content in it as well. These are like little charm type beads, and they sell. I bought a bunch of these. Many that I had didn't have silver in them, but still have value. There are certain brands that are like Murano glass, or Pandora is a big one, that can sell for, I'm not kidding you, hundreds of dollars for a single bead. I have a lot of these. I've listed most of them for $11, and when people watch them, I offer them $9. I've already sold half a dozen of these, and I have dozens and dozens left. I paid $50 for a gigantic lot of beads. I've already sold maybe 20% of what I bought for $260. So I've already in $200 in profit, and that's without selling all of these kinds of beads. So be advised that if you come across beads and stuff, just because it's crafty or stuff like that doesn't mean it doesn't have value. Some of these have very large values. This is a 1920s. It's like a little makeup compact. Not the greatest condition, unfortunately. It's got some scraping on the top of it. This only sold for $14, but it would have sold in the $30-some range had it been in better condition than this. It has a little mirror inside and some makeup. So I only paid $3 for this. Sold it for $14. It was a really easy flip. It sold in one auction cycle. This one surprised me. It's a necklace, sure. It has kind of like slightly polished pieces of turquoise, but I guess what I was surprised was that it sold for so much. It had a lot of interest. It was broken, as you can see right here. The piece that connected to this stone, the glue or whatever it was that held it together, had come off. It's not a hard fix, but it wasn't worth my time to do it. People just liked this. It's an older, probably from the 1970s, $42.60. This came in with a lot of jewelry. I've already made my money back on that jewelry, so this was just straight profit for me. Given the condition that it's in, I wouldn't have spent more than $3 or $5 on it. It is genuine turquoise, and it did seem old, so it does. I knew it had value. Perfectly. Here is the 20% of the beads that I was telling you about that I sold, and you can see an enormous amount of beads. We've got amber colored beads here, blue here, red in the center, pink and rose purple, and then clear. The thing that's unique about these, it's a variety of different colors, different types of cut, different shapes and sizes. Someone had sorted them very well, and a lot of these are what would be considered check glass. Some of these are remakes, but I could tell that some of these had been harvested from original check necklaces and bracelets, where they made this type of iridescent, aurora borealis looking glass bead. It was something like 18 pounds is how much this weighed, because they're all glass. But I accepted a best offer for $260. Again, I paid $50 for these, and this was only 20-25% of the whole lot I got. I got it at an estate sale locally. I don't think that the people there realized the full values that were in there. Also, they didn't want to mess with sorting all of that and trying to sell it individually, so they just offloaded it in one large amount. And that's oftentimes how I can make good money. This is a photo booth picture. I bought a lot on eBay of photo booth pictures. I think I bought, it was either 6 or 8 individual frames. I paid $3, I think $2.99 for all of them. That listing was misleading because the way that it was written and the way that it looked, you thought that all was in that was one photo, or one little strip. Or like frame rather. But when you went in and looked at the pictures, you discovered that there were like 8 actual photos in the lot. So I bought it and got them back, and then now I'm selling them all individually. So one of the like 8 that I got, I paid $2.99 for. I've sold for $9.99, and I expect that I'll sell the rest of them for anywhere between $8 and $10. Photo booth pictures are very difficult to find, like out in the real world, like at thrift stores or antique stores. If you find them and they're reasonably priced, they can be worth a lot, especially if they're older or have bizarre, faces or like interesting, content in them. This is a little silver plate. It's an alcohol burner. You would put alcohol in it, and this little portion right here, you would unscrew. That top part lifts up right here, as you can see. It still has a wick in it, and you would light it, and it's for warmth. You can put oil in it. It's just like a little travel burner. I paid $2 for this at a local thrift store. Sold it for $14 in about 2 weeks. Now we have a vintage draw knife. The thing that was unique about this, other than the fact that it's quite old, it's a vintage piece, is that instead of it having a single piece of metal that you would hold and draw, the handles actually were adjustable. So that's what it looks like when it's open. When it's closed, it looks like this. You unscrew these little, nuts here, and they fold in, and there's a section kind of carved out in the metal, or in the wood handle rather, so that the blade can fit inside. So it kind of protects it when it's not being used. It keeps the blade from being exposed and cutting people. It's smart design. The blade was still sharp. I didn't mess with it. People who collect these don't necessarily want you refurbishing them. I mean, they look nicer, but kind of takes away the patina and kind of the age. I bought this at an estate sale with a bunch of tools, hundreds of tools. I paid right around $250 for all of them, and I sold 2 within the first week that paid me all my money back. So this sold for $90. All this is back to me. I buy and sell these throughout the year. I've never come across one that had an adjustable handle though. And so it's really cool. It has an 1895 patent on it. So this is, over 100 years old. These little figurines, this little artist, the artist is Tom Clark. These are, I don't know what they're made out of, some sort of resin substance that hardens, and then they have been hand painted. They would have been cast into some sort of mold, like a rubber mold or maybe a plaster mold. These are, I guess, no longer produced. They're retired. There's different kinds. I wouldn't have probably bought this on its own, but this came in a large buyout at a thrift store that I did, and there was a box of maybe half a dozen of these. I want to say I've sold half of them so far. $12 to $14 is usually what I'm selling them for, because I don't have any really large or really rare ones. I would just definitely, if you find something like this, definitely do Google Lens or search the image in eBay itself to see what the sold comps are. I wouldn't spend more than $3 or $4 on something like that, and you want to make sure it's in good condition. They have lots of little pieces that jet out and things, just like little small ceramics that you always have to really examine to make sure there aren't any chips or things, because buyers will be picky. They're not going to want something that's damaged or even has been repaired. They would prefer it to be in good condition. This is a bracelet I bought for $3 at a thrift store because they didn't know that it was sterling silver. It has a mark on it, and I can't remember where the mark is. There it is. It's right on the edge underneath. Hard to see. It says 925. And it's quite heavy. I don't know if I listed in here or not how many grams it weighed, but it probably weighed 50 some grams. 40 to 50 some grams is my guess. Quite heavy bracelet. It bent in the center of it, so you can get your wrist into it. I accepted a best offer of $95. So again, $3 expense, $95 back within a couple of weeks. That's a really good flip. This was cool. This came in the thrift store buyout as well. I didn't buy it individually. I was happy to find it. It was kind of down in a box and wrapped up with other glassware actually, and china and things like that for table settings. But this is what they call a Frozen Charlie doll, and it's a doll. It's ceramic with a glaze, and it's been painted. It was quite tall. I'm wondering if I measured it at the end. Yeah, I did. Things like this and vases and other things, I try to get a picture, at least one, and it gives the height. So you can see this was, right around 8 inches tall, fairly heavy for its size, ceramic. Some of these are selling as much as $300, to $400, believe it or not. I had a hard time selling this at those kinds of prices. I kept lowering it until I got to where we are here, and then I ended up accepting a best offer of, I believe it was $138. Again, I didn't buy this individually. I would probably spend as much as $20 or $30 on something like this if I had seen it out, because I have come across them before and they usually sell pretty well. This next lot is just some postcards. I buy and sell postcards by the thousands. I buy them in the thousands, I'll sell them in a lot of the thousands, all the way down to individually, just depending on the content and the condition and how much value I think it has. I'm getting these out. The Easter and Valentine cards are kind of coming out right now because those are the next two holidays that are going to happen. So I want to maximize the highest interest of the time of year around those holidays to try to get some buyers. You know, these are the kind of cards that if you come across them, you can buy anywhere from $2 to $5 out at antique stores. You don't usually see antique cards at thrift stores, at least I don't. But let's just say I had spent $5 on each of these, 15, turned it into 24. That's not a huge, you know, money-making, you know, approach. But these particular cards came in a lot that I bought for like $300. I bought like 1,200 of them. I pulled 200 or 300 out that I wanted. I turned around and sold that same amount for basically what I paid for the whole first amount. So these actually have no cost in them to me. I've already got all my money back, so this $24 was just straight profit. This was something that came from a thrift store. I paid, I think, $20 for these, and they were 14 karat gold. It said, I think that they just thought, well, you know, $20, they're tiny, you know, but you know, sometimes people only buy gold at certain prices that are just slightly under 10, 15, 20% under the spot value. But things like this that are wearable, they're not broken, they're attractive. People want to wear certain, you know, jewelry that represents things that they care about. And so here we are, crosses, 14 karat yellow gold. I had them up as high as $150 to start, started lowering it down, and then sold them for $95. Gold and silver, I don't have to tell you, has value. It's going to sell. It's just a matter of how long and how much. These were some tools that I bought, like I picked them out individually. This is with the tool lot that I bought at the estate sale. However, everything that I bought in there, I didn't buy just large lots. I actually hand-picked everything out of a giant garage area. More tools than I've ever seen at a person's home before. It was an estate sale of someone who had passed away, and lots of great stuff in there. I wish I'd had more time, more money, and more space, because everything in there was good. But these specifically are Klein brand pliers, and Klein made what they would call lineman's pliers. And I'm going to zoom in here. Yep, so you can see this is their logo is an image of a lineman up on the top of a telephone pole working on telephone lines and power lines. And so these, each one has a different model number, as you can see, in a code, and the way that they look and the dates will help you know the age and when they were manufactured. Some of the really older ones, more obscure ones, can sell for hundreds of dollars. These were not rare per se, but this person still got a really good deal, in my opinion. I just wanted to move them, didn't want to hold on to them for a long time, so I accepted 106. I would have liked to have gotten more, like double that. And I have sold individual Klein pliers before for 100, like for this amount. But these particular ones just weren't terribly sought after, apparently. This was a really exciting find. Best score of an individual item that I've got in the last probably 2 to 3 months. Well, last couple of months. I had a couple of good scores back to back, but this was a pocket watch. It's not a long story. I was essentially putting some stuff out in an antique store that I sell at. I came across a booth that had this in it. I looked at it. The dealer happened to be in there. We struck up a conversation. They wanted $150 for it. And I said, I think I'll buy it. And they said, well, I'll give you 20%, just being kind, I'll give you 20% off. I said, I will take that. That's great. Thank you. I had a suspicion that this was made out of solid gold based on the way that it looked inside. It said warranted 14K. Now, usually when it says warranted and it gives a purity, it will give a certain number of years, 10 years, 20 years, 25 years. And what that means is that it is a gold-filled pocket watch, meaning there's a base alloy metal on the inside, and the outside has a covering of gold, of pure gold, of whatever carat it's showing. 10 karat, 12, 14 karat, 18 karat. The number of years is sort of a way of saying the amount of gold that's been covering it. Something that's 10 years is a lot less of an amount of gold than something that's 25. The idea being you can use this for 10 years, but after 10 years, it's going to start to wear off and you're going to see that color of that base metal underneath. Or if it's more gold, 25 years. You can wear this for 25 years and put it in and out of your pocket. Well, this was weird because it said 14K warranted, but it didn't have the years. I'd never seen that before, and so I suspected it was made of solid gold. At $120 though, the look of this case, how beautiful and ornate and etched it was. It has a little plate on one side that would have been made for a person to have their initials engraved in it, either for themselves or as a gift. And on the other side, it had this tiny little image of essentially like a shoreline with some mountains in the background and a little boat. But really beautiful, etched all the way around the edge, the corner. Now, it was not a working condition. Other downside was the crystal was missing, the glass. So I had to be very careful that I didn't lose the hands, because those can just fall off if you're not careful. All that to say, I got back, I did some research, I got on a couple of Facebook groups of people who collect these, and I said, guys, here's the pictures, tell me. Overwhelmingly, people said, yep, we're pretty sure that this is solid gold. I did a scratch test, it came back gold. I sold it within 48 hours. I took a best offer of $900. In gold scrap weight, it was worth right around $1,000 for the case, because it was about 33 to 35 grams of solid 14 karat gold. I could have waited longer and made another $50, but it might have taken me 3 more months. So I thought, well, I'd rather have $900 today than $950 3 months from now, because there's a lot I can do with that money in the meantime. But that was a really good score. And when you're looking at pocket watches, unscrew the back if you can, or pop the back open if it hinges. Take a look on the inside of the case. That will tell you if it's a gold-filled or silver or solid gold case. Here we have just a lot of sterling silver. I do this, I buy lots of jewelry. If I find little pieces of silver that are broken or tarnished, or it's an earring missing, another one, I put them in a little bag until I have, at least 100 grams. Usually I wait till about 200 grams. In this case, I just decided to throw one up for 160 grams, $110 for sterling silver scrap. They're going to melt it down, they're going to sell it off, and since I sold it a little bit under the scrap weight, they're going to make a little bit of profit off of it as well. I didn't buy any of that stuff individually. That was all sort of like loose ends, stuff that some people might just pitch in the trash. Oh, here's a silver earring, but I can't do anything with it because the other one's missing. Well, that's not scrap to me. It is scrap. I mean, it is something that people are going to buy as scrap, but it's not worthless, I guess is what I'm trying to say. This was a cool necklace. I bought this. I had this for like 6 months. I thought for sure, based on the way it looked, it would sell faster than this. It was really pretty. It's a genuine turquoise. This was in with a bunch of costume jewelry, probably gold plated, but definitely 3 or 4 small cabs here on the side, and then on the center, a gigantic piece of turquoise. It took me a while. I think I paid $8 for it at a thrift store in another town. This actually was in Florida, if I recall. I went on a sourcing trip with Peaches here from the warehouse, and while I was waiting for him to get in from the airport, I went to a couple thrift stores and bought this. So, $8 and selling it for $88, I mean, that's, 10 times your profit essentially there. But I was kind of disappointed it took me so long to sell it. This is an L.E. Smith branded, brand swung vase, and we talk about this on the podcast we just started. There's a What Sold podcast, and that's where we do basically what we do on here. We talk about items, but we highlight a couple, we talk about certain categories to look for. So if you have any interest in podcasts, look for the What Sold podcast. It's out now. We're going to be doing 2 episodes a week, so that's fun and new. But we talk about this. I show this. The story goes, I was in an antique store. I found this in a booth. They wanted $50. I knew that these sold for $200, $250, $300 all day, every day. online, various colors. This was a very in-your-face color, bright orange, but a beautiful piece for people who like vases. But it was tall. Let me get down here. Look at this, 21 inches tall. I mean, think about that. That's almost 2 feet tall. Very large. Not everybody wants something of that size in their home, but these things sell well. So I threw it up because I went up to buy it, and I discovered that that dealer had a 50% off sale going. Awesome. So I only paid $25 for it, which meant that I could sell for less than my competitors. Other people were selling these. They wanted bare minimum $200. So I set mine at $199. Somebody was interested. I offered them $175 and they took it. So I paid $25 and 2 days later sold it for $175. Now the downside about that is just that finding a box that fits that, having enough packaging around it that you can ensure it will not be damaged or broken in transit. That's a whole other story. That's why I stay away from that stuff for the most part. You can see the next item, and most of the items we talked about, they can fit in my hand. They fit in a bubble mailer or a little piece of cardboard or a 6x6 box and nothing bigger. This is, you know, roughly the size of like a thimble. It's an acro agate thumb. They call it a mini flower pot. I've got it upside down to make it look like a thimble, but this is made out of glass, a swirly glass, not unlike how some, you know, older vintage marbles would have been made out of. But it's an artisan piece. You can see the little circle here with the pontil because it was hand blown. I threw this up for $30. I'm seeing other ones sell similarly to this price in the upper 20s, low 30s. Threw it up for $34. It sold in 1 day. So this only cost me $2 at a thrift store. This is a very unusual looking green kind of container, and let me show you. It's kind of got this cool look. It's this like avocado green with like this creamy speckled design around the edge, but it's got the brand on it where it's manufactured. It's a US made thing. It's got a little lid. When I looked it up, I didn't know exactly what its purpose was, but they had it listed as a sugar dish, and I thought, why not? So I threw it up, and it sold in a day for exactly what I was asking. Was surprised by that. This was a $4 item at a thrift store. Didn't know about it before. Hadn't never seen one before, but was pretty happy. Now this happened to be 2 different pieces of jewelry that I bought at 2 different times, and I just still happened to have the bracelet at the time that I bought, that I came across the necklace. So the necklace came in a bunch of jewelry that I bought at a thrift store in a big buyout, so I didn't buy it individually. I did buy the bracelet individually though. I paid $3. They didn't know it was sterling silver. It has the marking on the clasp here, right here where the claw part, right here where I'm kind of focusing, right there, there's a stamp that says 925. People who don't know how to examine these things could easily miss that. I hadn't sold it yet, so I thought, well, I'll just go ahead and put this with the necklace because the chain, the size, the gauge, and the knot pattern is identical. And so you can see on the back of the head here, there's the 925. So it's a very odd. I don't know if this is supposed to be some sort of image of a god, something. I don't know if it's Chinese. I don't know if it's from like some sort of an island nation. But needless to say, I had paid $3 for one. The other one, I had nothing in because I had already sold stuff from the lot. I had it up as high as $250. I had watchers even then, but nobody bought it. Ended up paying me $169, which they were heavy pieces, but that's still way more than the value of the weight of the silver. But they just like the design. It's unique. This piece is just a necklace. It's a pretty basic gold necklace. It's a 14 karat gold necklace. You can see it's a fairly dainty, thin chain necklace. And at the bottom it has 5 gold beads. 2 of them are more of like a brushed gold color, and the other 3 are slick. You can see they've got some wear, but you know, gold weight, it probably only weighed about enough to be worth, it's probably only 2 or 3 grams total, because those are hollow beads. But I got $99 out of it. That was, you know, I think that was a $25 purchase, but I knew that you know, 1 gram of 14 karat gold is about $38 right now, so I knew I could make some money on that. Accepted best offer for $18. If I had added this up in the first week, I definitely wouldn't have, but Again, I'd sold all of the tools that I bought from that estate sale. These were included in that. I'd make my money back. Now it's a matter of move this stuff. These are big items. They take up space. They're heavy. I say big in comparison to other things that I store, like jewelry pieces and postcards and things. So I just wanted to get them out. So $18. These are all just used. Some of them, the tips of them were a little damaged, and so these are not high value. It's just a lot of chisels, Stanley brand, Buck Brothers, maybe a Craftsman in there. So if you're going to buy chisels, especially chisels with wood handles, and older ones can bring really good values. But just do your research, take a look, so that you know kind of what to expect. This was a little set of Crown Trifari. It's a brooch and an earring set. You can see it's a gold tone, sort of floral. It's got a white enamel paint on it. On the back, if you zoom in, you'll see that it has the mark Trifari with the crown over the T, which indicates that it is an older piece. Later on in the company's history, they dropped the crown emblem over the T, and so you know it's a newer piece. Pieces that are large, really bright, incorporate lots of rhinestones, those things can sell for hundreds, approaching $1,000 for a single necklace or a single brooch. So usually with older pieces, I'm going to do pretty well either way. This is a situation where I paid $3 for the earrings, $3 for the brooch. I'm $6 in, and I sold it for $25. These have sold really well for me. These old trade cards that are either tobacco. This happens to be a soda company, Dwight's Soda. But there's other ones like Will's Tobacco and John Player Tobacco cards. They're small cards, kind of like sports cards, but smaller. And they feature all kinds of things. Trains, automobiles, ways of doing work in the home, handyman stuff, or animals, birds, dogs, interesting, exotic creatures from around the world. There's a bunch of different. I've got ones from people who were, actors and actresses back in the 1930s and 40s. The point is, I get a whole lot of these, and with a big lot of paper ephemera. I spent probably $800 on something like 100 pounds of paper ephemera, and in this lot were several, dozens and dozens of cards like this. You throw them up individually, and I've been selling them for anywhere from $10 to $14 a piece. So I don't know exactly how much I have in this. I paid, like I said, $800 for 100 pounds, but that 100 pounds had over 1,000 items in it, so we could say easily I'm into this piece for under $1, probably 50 cents or less, and then I sold it for $12.42. When you find these, you often find them in groups, in lots of several, so don't be afraid to ask to take a look at some of those. If they have them in a bag, just say, can I see what I've got going on here, and then do a quick research. Look at the brand and look at what the image is. Here's another one. This was also a Dwight Soda, but this one happens to be polar bears. $9.99 for that one. This was really cool. This came with a jewelry lot that I was helping sell for someone else, and I ended up selling this. It just seems like some studs to go in your the holes for your buttons would go, and also some cufflinks, but these are actually more valuable. They're mother of pearl with pearls on the outside, but this is by the Mikimoto brand. I believe it's a Japanese brand, but there's very, very high-end pearls. These also featured sterling silver, so you can see it says silver. I was hoping to get more like $250 for these, but I kept lowering it. They just weren't selling as fast as I had thought maybe they would, but I ended up taking a best offer of $160. This book also I held on to for a long time. I thought it was really interesting, really old school book here. I can't remember if it says the publishing date. Copyright 1899. So little Indian folk. You got to be careful when you see some of these, because oftentimes you're going to come across stuff that's very insensitive to certain ethnic groups or cultures, and or downright racist. Like you see that I come across things, postcards, various stuff, paper goods oftentimes that depict certain people groups in a less than favorable light. This wasn't as much that. It was more stories with just some kind of pictures to go along with it. I only paid $8 for it at a thrift store. I took a best offer of $38. Would have liked to have done better, but again, I'd held on to it for a long time and wanted to move it. Last few items here today. We've got a lot of Star Wars, you know, figures, and these are miniature figures. These are from the Mission Fleet kind of line that they have been putting out for probably the last 4 or 5 years. They oftentimes come with vehicles or things that they can sit on or ride in. Those, I had some, sold them separately, and this was just the figures themselves. $22, not the best in the world, not the worst in the world. These are not particularly rare. There's a lot of them out there. They didn't come with any vehicles and very few accessories, so somebody just liked them. Here was a little belt buckle I got out of a thrift store lot. Maybe 8 or 10 different types of belt buckles came out of this lot. I really never know with belt buckles unless they're made of silver or something. It's very difficult to gauge for me, like the interest level, and they tend to be like a slow burn product, meaning I'm not going to sell it quick. I can sell it eventually, but it's kind of like, if I'm only going to get $10 out of it, I would rather sell it really fast or bundle it with other things and try to move it. I was only a few cents into this if you look at what I paid for the whole lot. This was exciting. I paid, what did I pay? I paid $30 for this. I paid $30 for this at an antique store. It is a pocket watch chain, and it's got a really, really interesting looking kind of hook clasp here at the bottom with a kind of this it's circular, kind of a barrel type of opening, but it's etched, really pretty design. I could tell by looking at it that it was old. So I paid that $30. I do very well with vintage pocket watch chains, silver, gold filled, and then this, after doing a scratch test, turned out to be 10 karat gold, solid gold. So it wasn't marked. It was probably old enough that the purity standards had not required them to mark it yet. $275 on this. I was very, very happy with that. Sometimes if I have a pocket watch here that I'm ready to sell and I get a fob and a chain that matches the same color, I'll put them together to maximize that sale. I didn't have one that was that color. I had ones that were like more of a yellowish gold. That was kind of more, clearly had more copper content in it. It was almost like a rose gold. It was very nice. This antique postal card is, again, it's a postal card, not a postcard. So it has pre-printed postage on it. For President McKinley here, it is postmarked 1906. And this particular card was sent, I got a lot of maybe 50 of these. They were all sent to or from the same man who was the director of the Maryland Asylum for what they call for feeble-minded children. So it was, you know, serving individuals with disabilities, and this man had sent out all these cards to different hospitals and places doing research and trying to get information and give information regarding the population of people that they served at their facility. It's very interesting. 1906, sold for $12. I've sold several of those. I just wanted to give you one example. Oh, I paid $10, by the way, for that lot of like 50, and I sold that one for, what was that? $12. So I made all my money back on one. So I got 49 others that I can make profit off of. This lot is just a couple of pocket watches, a couple of pocket knives. Good blades, definitely used, not the worst in the world, not the best in the world. Pocket knives always sell for me unless it's a really, really nice brand or really great condition. I usually put them in lots of 2 to 5 at a time and then run them on auctions, and I almost always sell them on auction. This one, though, I didn't run an auction. I ran as a buy it now, accepted a best offer of $15, and moved it on. These are things that I can find for $1 a piece a lot of times at antique stores or thrift stores. I was surprised by this. I don't know if it's the fact that these were all a particular type of photo. These are all real photo postcards, so they're very old. But the thing that was unusual about them was that the color tinting, they were all blue on this photo paper. And you can see that they're of scenes, and they're all from Alaska. And you can see right here, you see this carved totem pole right here of a face. Unusual. I guess there's not a whole lot like that. Maybe there are people who collect that certain thing, but I threw them up as a lot because they all went together as an auction. First auction cycle, they sold for $30.92. These are some that I pulled out of one of those lots that I bought, like 1,000 or so cards. Pulled these out individually, and now I'm making money from that. Here is one of these examples. 11 pounds of, so I would have bought, I think I bought a lot of 14 pounds of postcards, which represented something like 13 or 1400 cards. I pulled 300 or 400 out. I put that the 11 pounds now back on to sell, and sold them for $199. So when I can do that, I'm essentially giving myself hundreds of postcards for free to sell. So I still have to do the work to sell them, but that's where I make my money, because I get the bulk of my initial investment back from the sale of the bulk lot that aren't as valuable. This piece right here I paid $20 for. It is what they call a concertina. It's a musical instrument. It's kind of like a squeeze box instrument that you have buttons on either side, and you squeeze back and forth, and it makes different notes. I don't know how to play it, but it was in great condition. It had the bellows were pristine. It was really good condition. Paid $20 for that. Sold it for $120 the next week. And then the last thing today is this. I guess it's a necklace, but it's all sterling silver. It has these charms on it, and this says "Baby Secrets." It's like a child and like a winking moon. Crescent moons with faces, big faces, were a big part of the artwork of the late 1800s, early 1900s. You see old postcards with people sitting with a gigantic crescent moon behind them, and those are actually quite valuable also. But this was cool. It was almost like set up to be a rattle, or maybe something that they hung up above a crib, and the kid could, kind of bang it. This happened to be almost like a bell with like a little metal piece inside that made noise. So it was really cool. This came in a bunch of jewelry I got from a thrift store, so I didn't buy it individually. I would have spent up for it though if I'd known it was silver and it was an individual thing. But needless to say, I got $100 out of that, and I was happy with it. Well, that's all for today, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you check out our new podcast, the What Sold podcast, and we also have a YouTube channel variation called What Sold Podcast that you can look and you can watch us as well. We'll see you guys soon.